Hey everybody, and welcome to our trip tips to Dubuque County, Iowa through Outdoor Adventures Made Easy. Our goal is that you will use our free download trip guide and also this trip tips video to start planning your next adventure to Dubuque County, Iowa. So let's go ahead and hop into the trip guide. On page 2 of the trip guide, we have the area map. So this is just an overview of the different areas that the trip guide is going to refer back to, but it also shows where they're at geographically. That way you can kind of start planning which areas you might want to group together and hit at a similar time. That way you're not driving all over the place. Our first recommended stop is the Mines of Spain State Park. This is a really beautiful area and it also has a lot of amazing history tied back to it. So the first thing that we recommend you do there is hike at the Horseshoe Bluff Trail. So this is a 1-mile loop trail, and we prefer to hike down onto the lower level first. So this brings you into the base level of the old quarry that's there. And so you can explore this area, and then as you continue, you actually go up and you can kind of see it from the middle level or the middle tier. And then you can continue hiking up all the way to the top tier and check that out before you head back to the parking lot. So really beautiful views, really great bluffs that are in that area, and overall just a fun area to explore. But there isn't a ton of shade. So if you are hiking this in the summer months or on a hot day, we would recommend starting earlier in the day or doing it later in the evening because it could be a really warm hike if the temperatures are warm. So also be sure to bring water if it is a little bit warmer. It just has a little bit more of a desert feel for Iowa with all that limestone that you're surrounded with. Also at Mines of Spain State Park is the E.B. Lyons Nature Center. Now, typically in a park, the nature center is normally in like the heart of the park, but this one is a little bit different. The E.B. Lyons Nature Center is actually like on a different area of the park. So you have to drive, well, we choose to drive, leave the park and drive all the way back around. And you're actually kind of driving through a residential area. So you might feel like you're lost or you're going the wrong way, but you are probably on your way to the E.B. Lyons Nature Center, which has some really cool history, some explanation of the geology of the area, and then just all the different natural wonders as well. So really cool interpretation there, some great hands-on display. So definitely hit the E.B. Lyons Nature Center as well. And then the last thing that we want to recommend at the Mines of Spain State Park is the Julian Dubuque Monument. This is kind of the iconic view of this state park. So Julian Dubuque was the first European person of European descent to settle here in Iowa. And so there's some great history about him there. But this is the monument at the top of the hill at the confluence of Catfish Creek and the Mississippi River. So this has some beautiful wide views of the Mississippi River and the Mississippi River Valley. So it's a very short hike. You can see the monument from the parking lot. It doesn't take up a lot of time, but it's definitely worth checking out as it is a really beautiful view and is tied to some really interesting history as well. Up next is Crystal Lake Cave. So this is a privately owned commercial cave, which is very unique to Iowa. But I felt like this was a really great surprise. When you enter into the area, the parking seems a little maybe underdeveloped. The visitor center is a little bit dated. But when you go into the cave, you will be amazed at the beauty of the different cave formations. So I think what's unique about this cave is that they knew early on that this was going to be a show cave. And so instead of trying to modify it and harm the different cave formations, they actually mined down. So it's almost like you're walking through this little pathway, but all of the unique cave features are about at eye level. So I really thought that was fascinating. It's some of the most beautiful cave features that I've actually seen on a cave tour. And so this is about a 45-minute cave tour. It's very family friendly. As all caves are, they are chilly. So make sure that you wear a sweatshirt or a warm outer layer. And then also good shoes that have a good, nice grip on the bottom, as there are some spots that have standing water that you just have to navigate through. So we were really excited and pleased with Crystal Lake Cave. One thing to note is that because the entrance road is so steep, they do close down during the winter season. So if it's anywhere near that winter time, you'll want to check on their website and see when they open up or when they're closing for the season as well. So that's Crystal Lake Cave, and it's definitely one that you're going to want to hit as you explore Dubuque County. Next up is Whitewater Canyon, and in my opinion, this is an Iowa hidden gem. So not talked about as much, but it is absolutely beautiful. So this is owned by the County Conservation Board, and there's two main areas that you can explore. The first is my recommendation, which is to head to the Scenic Overlook. If you're just headed there and back, it's about a mile trip. And as you'll start walking through the prairie, and then it gets a little bit more wooded, and then you will approach the Scenic Overlook where you have this beautiful view of Whitewater Canyon. If you want to add a little bit more excitement to your trip and a little bit more length, then you can hook onto the stream bottom trail that goes down into Whitewater Canyon from there. So there's going to be some elevation change, and that one gets a little bit more challenging, but you can tack that onto the Scenic Overlook Trail. If you're looking for a different hike that's a little less popular, there's Lost Canyon Trail and the Valley of the 13 Caves. So this kind of goes off in a little bit different direction, and you head down into this canyon type area, and you're kind of surrounded by bluffs, and there's different features that you can explore there. If you're really trying to find the different caves that are in that area, they're not quite like Makokata Caves, where you're really underground for quite a while, but there are some different caves there to explore. If that is really your goal and you have the option to plan when you're exploring there, I would actually suggest doing late fall or early spring or even the winter time, because with all the summer foliage, it's hard to see where the different features are, and I think it'd be pretty easy to walk past them. There's not a lot of well-worn paths to those different areas. So if you're looking to hit all of those different caves and find all the features, I would recommend going in a season where there's not as much greenery around. Next up is Eagle Point Park. So this one is a little unique as it does charge $1 fee per vehicle to enter the park, but it is worth it in my opinion. I just think it's a little odd to charge an admission fee to a city-owned park, but it was great and really fun to explore. So the first thing that we recommend you do is check out the overlook. So you get to see the Mississippi River Valley and the Mississippi River, but you also get to overlook Lock and Dam 11. And if you're lucky enough, you might get to see a barge pass through, which it would be a really awesome vantage point to be able to see how that process works. But no matter what, if you have binoculars, this would be a great place to bring them to, because this is a really beautiful, it's really kind of like a trail that just borders that bluff, and you get some beautiful views there. The other thing that we really liked about Eagle Point Park was the fish pond. So this has some really cool landscape architecture, and we just kind of let the kids play there for a while and let their imaginations run wild as they, made up all sorts of different storylines as they were exploring near the fish pond. There's also some buildings with really unique architecture. Most of them were built in the 1930s. You don't, unless you're going to rent one of the buildings, you don't have access to the interior, but it is fun to just kind of walk around the exterior of the buildings and just explore that different architecture that you see there. So Eagle Point Park definitely has some amazing views and some fun things to explore while you're there. Next up is the National Mississippi River Museum and Aquarium. This is a place, especially if there's not great weather on your trip, this would be a great option to explore. There is an admission fee, so if you have a bigger family, it can get a little bit costly, but this is one that you could spend the entire day there learning and exploring. They walk through the history of the Mississippi River, the different ecosystems and animals that are there. There's a lot of hands-on displays. And they are constantly adding new exhibits, and they do a great job about thinking about how the kids will learn and interact from that. So if you have young kids, this is a great option as well. I think if you were going to hurry through it, you could maybe get it done in 3 hours. But if you really want to do it justice, it's probably going to take all day. So kind of depends on your family and how that works. But there is a lot to see and do inside the National Mississippi River Museum and Aquarium. It's a mouthful, but it's also a day full of fun. Next up is the Swiss Valley area. So this is a little bit confusing because there's actually 3 areas in one. There's the Swiss Valley Nature Preserve, there's Swiss Valley Park, and there's Swiss Valley Campground. And so the Nature Preserve and Park are right next to each other, and then the campground is about a mile down the road. So they're all in very close proximity, but if you're trying to get to the campground, you do actually have to go about a mile down the road. So the Nature Preserve and Park has a nature center there that you can check out and explore. And then there's also some really great hiking trails there as well. So there's a trail that goes along the stream that is one of the most popular. That goes along Catfish Creek, which is stocked with trout. So if you're looking to go fishing, this would be a great spot. But do make sure that anyone that's over 16 that is fishing has a valid fishing license and has their trout stamp as well. We'll also go into a little bit more detail for the Swiss Valley Campground when we get to the where to stay section of the trip guide. Up next is the Fenelon Place Elevator, and this is dubbed the shortest and steepest scenic railway. This is a really fun stop, even though it's pretty quick, but it has some fascinating history behind it as well. In 1882, Mr. Graves decided that he needed to make this elevator. So he lived up on the bluff top and he worked in a bank at the bottom in downtown Dubuque. And so when he would go home for lunch, it would take him the entire lunch hour to get home and back. And he didn't have enough time for his nap. And so he looked at different models across the world and he came up with this example. And so he brought it to Dubuque. And obviously there's been lots of upgrades since then, but they have restored and they've really done a great job of maintaining the historic charm of this while it's also very safe. So if you're planning to check this out, we recommend parking at the top, which is really basically just in a residential area. There's parallel parking up there. And then you'll walk down to the office area. You'll buy your ticket in cash. There is no credit cards accepted. And then what we like to do is ride down. If you want to get out and walk around downtown Dubuque and check out the shops, you can do that before hopping back on and riding back up to the top. So it's a short little trip, but it is really fun. And it was something that our whole family really enjoyed. Next up, we have our where to stay page. So as with all of our other trip guides, we always try to encourage a location where you can go camping. And for this one, that's Swiss Valley Campground. So they have a mix of sites that are reservable, but most of them, 70% of them, are first come, first serve. So if you are planning on going on a peak season, so like summer or early fall, then you're probably going to want to try and get a reservation. If you can't do that, try and get there early to make sure that you reserve your spot. This has Catfish Creek flowing through it, so really scenic, beautiful. You can trout fish right there from the campground. They have really great amenities there as well. If camping is not quite your thing, no problem. There's lots of options for where to stay in Dubuque. So we also have a link for that in the trip guide as well. Right after that in the trip guide is our car camping packing list in case you are going camping and you want to check out our packing list to see if you're forgetting anything. So that wraps up all of the information we have as our trip tips for our trip to Dubuque County, Iowa. We hope that this guide is really helpful as you and your family start planning your next adventure to Dubuque County.